going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now.
Jimothy.
So ladies and gents, it feels like a age and a half since I was last on the channel. I've just been a little bit busy with work. It is what it is. Kind of gets like that towards the end of like certain periods of the year, just because it runs into a holiday. But anyway, enough about me harping on about my work. Let's just get into why we're here, and that is I've kind of moved away from Raid Raptors, and I'm in a bit of limbo just because I'm kind of waiting on the ban list as to what deck I really want to go forwards with. It's been a little bit of a indecision tree because I don't own any of the new fire stuff, and I don't own SP. However, I can acquire those. I was kind of waiting to see what my schedule was saying, whether or not I would be able to attend some regionals. I missed the UK Open, unfortunately, which Snake Eye, was it Snake Eye Fire King or just Snake Eye? Managed to win anyway. But yeah, I didn't manage to go to that. So me investing in cards wasn't really it was a no-brainer basically. Like, I was just going to invest in cards and just going to sit in my deck box. So I decided to just use what I have. And as you can see from the gameplay, I'm actually playing Kashtira, ladies and gents, and I'll be honest, as a budget option, quote unquote budget, as a budget option, it is a very strong deck, to say the least. Now, there are a few ways you can go with it. I'm playing it pure. I feel like pure is a little bit better. You've got room for hand traps. It's still a very powerful deck. You don't necessarily need to go into your extra deck to basically facilitate a lot of your plays. Fenrir's busted, Unicorn's busted, and even Ogre is pretty good as a big beat stick anyway. So I decided to play Kashtira at my most recent locals actually, and that's where you're seeing this footage from. And I managed to go X1. Shifter's a card. Shifter's an absolute card. We all know how powerful Shifter is. I'm trying to think of a way that I can kind of like still utilize Shifter past turn 1. I haven't actually thought of a way yet apart from Bestials, but yeah, that's for something else. But I moved away from Raid Raptors mainly because I was finding a few inconsistencies with regards to Raid Raptors, and I feel like as strong as the deck is, it still has a lot of problems. One of the problems being the format. Now, the format is quote unquote calling for like 14 hand traps, sometimes even more than that, and Raid Raptors can definitely have the room and space to fit those 14 hand traps in. However, you're left in a scenario where you've used a lot of hand traps and you've only got one card. Now, Raid Raptor doesn't necessarily have a one card starter. You need at least an extender in hand to be able to do some certain things, and sometimes you just can't do that. Like, there's a few times where I've just used like 3 or 4 hand traps against my opponent. I've normal summoned one Raid Raptor and I've just died to like an Imperm or an Ash, and there's literally nothing else that I can do, and that's a little bit frustrating in my opinion, just because it means that as much as I use hand traps to be able to play the game, I still can't play the game. So I kind of moved away from it. As well, I was bricking a little bit, so I just kind of just put the deck down for a bit. I says, you know what, let me just get a rest, because I'm not enjoying the fact that I just can't play Yu-Gi-Oh. I can take a loss when a loss is given to me because the player outplayed me, but just not being able to play Yu-Gi-Oh because I either bricked or I just don't have the cards to facilitate it, it just frustrates me. So I turned on Kashtira, and Kashtira has a lot of benefits. One, the monsters are huge, and there's a bit of a trend that I've kind of noticed with some more of the more powerful decks. Each individual card has got like at least 2 very powerful effects. So Unicorn, Fenrir, they both got very powerful effects. So obviously Unicorn can get a spell or trap, well, just a spell. Fenrir can just obviously add a Kashtira monster, and if any of those get interacted with in any either way, they've got their additional effects to banish a card on field or banish a card from the extra deck, which I think is just absolutely crazy. So that's why I tended to go for Kashtira. I've had the cards for a while, and I decided to play it. But in terms of where it sits in the format, like obviously if you've seen the UK Open, ladies and gents, there's been a few decks that have just kind of like come and gone, but in totality we all know that Snake Eye Fire King is the best deck. Voiceless Voice did put up a good showing, but Snake Eye Fire King is by far, or just Snake Eye, both those variants are very close to each other. They basically are running a meta, and we all know this already. Hence why I'm still undecided as to what I want to go into next, just because I feel like those decks are going to get hit in some capacity, and once they do, I can make a move. I'm also kind of keeping one eye on the ban list because I feel like Kashtira might potentially get hit somewhere in the future. Not for now because the reprints are coming, so obviously that's a thing. But in to say the least, ladies and gents, I'm not going to waffle on anymore. What I decided to do for you guys is just give you a little bit of a deck profile of deck that I took. It's Kashtira. It's pretty cut and dry, to be honest. And shouts out to Boise for lending me the SP Little Knight, because it did actually come in a couple of games that I played. And SP is another card that I'm definitely going to invest into, ladies and gents. Whether I trade for it or buy it is up for contention, but I need to get one. There's no other card like it, and there's a reason why cards like this tend to go for so much money, because they literally do something that no other card can do, basically, especially on a generic link too, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. I can't see it lasting, to be honest, but it is what it is. But anyway, ladies and gents, let's just get straight into the deck profile. Okay, ladies and gents, here is the list that I took to my most recent locals, going X1 after 4 rounds, which was pretty impressive considering I've never actually played Kashtira before. I've played against it a lot. Obviously, I've seen loads of replays. It used to be meta, and I just used that knowledge to try and like carry me through the games. I did make a few mistakes, especially in the earlier rounds, but all in all, it was a decent local. So quickly, before going to the profile, in terms of matchups, I played against Aroma Sun Avalon Rika. I played against Branded Chimera. I played against Orcust Runic, and I also played against Snake Eye Fire King in my final match. Coming third overall. So quote unquote meta decks, Branded Chimera is no slouch, ladies and gents. I'm actually kind of like messing around with that deck myself. I was going to take it to locals, but I couldn't find my Dark Magician, so I decided to play a different deck instead, being Kashtira. So without wasting any more time, ladies and gents, let's just get straight into the list. Now obviously, Kashtira starting us off with playing the triple unicorn. It's great that this card's back at 3. I've always messed about with Kashtira, especially in Punk as well, and Unicorn is definitely the mainstay of the deck. Just being able to select out spells and traps, which I think is just immeasurable in this deck. Triple Fenrir goes without saying. This is just literally consistent pieces. We all know what Fenrir does by now, ladies and gents. Don't really need to go over it anymore. Triple Riser. Now this is a little bit up for contention, but me personally, I like to see cards, and I think Riser is definitely a 3R for 2 reasons. The first reason, it gets your engine going and it can set up, follow up, and depending on what you banish off its effect to modulate its level. But the second thing is the effect to modulate its level actually turns into an interruption. So on my last game, I think I was playing against Fire King Snake Eye, I managed to banish one of his Ponics from his deck face down, and he ended up with like 9 cards or so banished off just Rise Heart's effect by itself, let alone Birth as well. So this card in tandem with like any kind of like one-offs that your opponent's playing can actually be a major disruption, because they literally cannot get that card back. It's just crazy how much this disrupts somebody's deck building, especially when they're playing like one-offs, which a lot of decks are doing now because they're playing so many hand traps. So they just need to resolve one of that specific card, and they're off to the races. But the chance of Rise off banishing is very high, especially in a 40 card deck. And then we play the 1 Ogre as well as the 1 Scareclaw Kashtira. I like Ogre. I like big monsters. It's a big beat stick, 2800, free special summon, searches out preparations, which in like I cannot overstate how much preparations is in this deck. It's such a powerful card, especially now. Previously probably wasn't as strong as it could have been, but now I think it's very, very strong. Just the effect to just reborn a Kashtira monster from banished or bring one out from your hand is just, yeah, you can't even scoff at that. Next for the Kashtira spells and traps, obviously triple Pressure Planet Wraithsoft goes without saying. Triple Birth, we're just looking for max consistency. Birth is busted, especially against Fire King Snake Eye, against Runic, against just a whole host of deck. Banishing 3 cards from your opponent's graveyard face down is you can't understand how much it can disrupt a deck, especially when I got resources in the graveyard. I've banished princesses, I've banished just a whole host of cards. It's crazy. Triple Kashtira Theosis. Some people opt to play 2. I understand that. When I'm going second, I decide to side 1 out as well as 1 Rise Heart out. But going first, typically once I've set up my banish pile, when I get access to a second Rise Heart, I'm banishing one of these off Rise Heart's effect to be able to then add back a Kashtira card from the banish, which is very, very powerful to say the least, ladies and gents. Just helps you to just recycle your resources, which is crazy. And then the one preparations which I spoke about, this card is just, whew, jeez. I haven't actually resolved its secondary effect when your opponent activates a trap card whilst you control a Kashtira monster to banish a card from the hand face down, but it's just a bit of a bonus effect. The main effect is being able to special summon back a Kashtira monster from your banish zone, which is very, very easy to set up, especially in this deck. Especially when you're playing the most degenerate hand trap in the whole of Yu-Gi-Oh, which everybody wants banned, which is none other than the man himself, or the person themselves, Dimension Shifter. I don't always see this, but when you do see it, the chances of you winning that game are at least 70%, especially if you're playing against anything other than Fluwunderies or the mirror match, so to speak, because everybody needs their graveyard nowadays, and this just says no to the graveyard. I'd love another way to make more use of the secondary copies that you tend to draw into on your following turns, but I do think that's the way that this card is balanced. If you don't see it turn one, quote unquote, you can't really do much with it, to be honest, because your graveyard's loaded, so you're drawing into dead draws. That's not an advocation for keeping this card at 3, because I do believe it's a little bit degenerate, but I understand why it's in here. If there was no way to kind of like stop some of these decks going first, or even slow them down, they're just like going first would just be absolutely crazy, absolutely ridiculous. It already is, but then at least with tools like this, it kind of slows that down. Get rid of this. What's to stop a deck from popping off completely? Because Triple Tactics Talent is a card, and you just get punished for playing. It's crazy. Next on, for the rest of the hand traps, level 3 tuner hand traps are really, really powerful in this deck, just because all of our Kashtira monsters are 7, Baron de Fleur is obviously a 10, and this makes up the additional levels as long as being a tuner. So it's got double the utility in this deck, and we all know how generically good Ash Blossom is, so it's a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest. I also supplemented it with 2 Moonlit Chills as well as the 1 Ghost Spell. With regards to this, just the same notion that obviously level 3 hand traps tuners are really, really valuable. Mourner's good because it can work under Shifter. I didn't want to put Veiler in just because of the chances it being a little bit dead. There are arguments that you can hold Veiler to following turns, but you could just die, and I'd rather just cover all my bases and just know that regardless what card I draw, I'm able to play it when I want to. So Ghost Spell and Mourner are definitely mainstays in that way. And then obviously to just round out the hand traps and playing triple infinite impermanence. Effect negation is strong. Negating like a Snake Eye Ash and stopping it from being able to resolve its secondary effect to special summon one from deck is very, very nice, because it forces your opponent to go into a few different lines. Maybe they chain the Fire King monster Kirin to pop it, and then it won't be able to do it, or they just let the infinite impermanence resolve and have to get it back out of the graveyard somehow to be able to trigger its effect. So effect negation, targeted effect negation is really, really powerful at the moment. So yeah, definitely something to consider if you're building this deck. And also the 1 Pankratops. Now the reason I put Pank in is because it's a level 7. It can special summon itself to the field depending on the status of the game. So if you special summon one of your Kashtira monsters and your opponent still controls like 2 monsters, you can special summon down Pank. You can go to level 7 plays, but you can also use it to beat over something and pop back row. So what I was typically using this for was to just get rid of floodgates. Summon limit was everywhere at locals, as well as like just annoying trap cards like, I don't know, Rika Sheet, for example. I got rid of a Rika Sheet using Pankratops, which is really, really powerful. So yeah, Pankratops is nice. Also an easy side out if you really wanted to side it out going second. So there's 3 cards that you can immediately take out for your side deck in the Theosis, the Rise Heart, and the Pankratops if need be. Next, for the non-engine spells, obviously we're playing Triple Prosperity. Goes without saying, ladies and gents, just a very, very nice consistency piece. Kashtira are known for bricking a little bit, so this just mitigates that. Yeah, nothing more to say. 1 Terraforming, as well as the 1 Triple Tactics Talent and the 1 Cosmic Cyclone. Now I'm not going to go over my side deck today, ladies and gents, just because it's still under construction. I had this deck built for the most part for a while, but there was a few last minute changes I made, and I feel like the side deck is not actually as complete as I would like it to be. Terraforming does play into Drone. There are ways that you can play around Drone, especially if you have Shifter in your hand. So you just activate Terraforming, chain Shifter, which is a nice feeling. But it's
yeah, again, you could take this out for any other card. It could be another board breaker, but I just like the consistency aspect of it. Just being able to play the game is what I'm looking for, especially my last experience with Raid Raptors, ladies and gents. Like, I want to be able to play the game and play the game properly, so yeah. And then Cosmic Cyclone, just for some back row removal. I do run the other two, or one in the side deck, as well as a Harpy's Feather Storm, Duster, as well as a Lightning Storm. But yeah, like I said, I won't go over the side deck. Still under construction. Now onto the extra deck. Pretty self-explanatory in terms of Kashtira, because it's just level 7 goodness. So one Kashtira Shangri-Ira. I don't tend to need another one, to be honest. One is enough. Typically, if you resolve this, you should be ahead in the game if it sticks on field. One number 11 Big Eye. This is a nice card. Just snatch. Sometimes use it to make SP Little Knight. Sometimes just leave it on field. It just sits there, takes monsters. Great. One Harmonizing Gradial. This is nice. Graveyard Disruption, especially snatching Promethean Princesses out of the graveyard. It's a nice feeling. So yeah, not much to be said about that card. One Mecha Phantom Beast Draco Sack. This card is very useful and very flexible because of some of the link monsters that we play in our extra deck. But yeah, Draco Sack is nice. Can also pop a card on field. So yeah. Red Ice Flare Metal Dragon. I actually won a game with this. It's crazy. I won in time. It burnt my opponent for like 3 or 4k, and it was game 3 and we had like 2 minutes left. And Red Ice Flare Metal Dragon just basically you have to pay a tax. Basically, it's the XYZ version of Tax Dragon. So yeah, it's nice. Also can't be destroyed if it's got material by card effects, which is something worth noting, because you can just you can put it in attack position because it's got 2800 attack and force your opponent to do something about it. So yeah. Dark Arm Dragon, Dragon of Annihilation. This is cards are nasty, just popping cards left, right, and center. That's beautiful. Also sets up your banish zone, because you can obviously banish cards from your graveyard to resolve its effect. And if you play it correctly, you can actually loot with a few resources, especially when you've got Birth on field, which is busted. So yeah, one Dark Arm Dragon, that's nice. The Sky Crisis boys, or Sky Thunder, however you want to call them, Zeus and Typhon. Yeah, nothing really much need to be said about those. And then obviously the Baron de Fleur again, semi overperformed. The standby phase effect in this for this card, it actually comes up very frequently, especially with how Kashtira works. If you've got a 7 on field, you can just reborn a tuner and then go straight back into your Baron, and then effectively just play the game again with another Baron negate up. So yeah, I've done that a couple of times, ladies and gents, and it tended to pay dividends. Link Spider, this should be at 2. I had to borrow a Link Spider at the event, so somebody borrowed me one just because I couldn't find my other one. I don't know where it's gone. But yeah, double Link Spider comes in nice, especially with the Draco Sack tokens. I am playing the Heat Soul package along with the G Golem and obviously Heat Soul. I didn't use this too much just because it hard loses to Nib, in my opinion. The only time you can go through this line is if you've drawn a talent and you've looked at your opponent's hand, or you're in a game state that you need to recover from and you manage to get enough on to go to the Heat Soul package. But I just feel like if you've got enough to make Heat Soul, then you've got 2 7s, which leads into the Draco Sack. You could just do something else. So I'm a little bit iffy on this package, but I've left it in nonetheless because I'm still figuring out whether or not what else I would like it to obviously fill those slots with, because there's a few cards that I'm missing myself. One Donna Dagger for hire. This is literally just to clear my field if I need to, just because at times you can end up with a couple of monsters on field that you don't want, whether that be like extra XYZ monsters, or you just need the field clear so you can special summon one of your Kashtira monsters. So yeah, Donna's useful in that sense. I normally banish it off cross, to be honest. And then the 1 SP Little Knight. This is not mine. Again, like I mentioned, it was borrowed to me by a friend. Appreciate it, boys. I made this a couple of times, but after playing with the card myself personally, I understand why this card is busted. SP Little Knight is just crazy good, especially as a generic Link 2 monster. It does way too much, to be honest. But yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh card design, it's power correct, it is what it is. And that's the list, ladies and gents. I've got a regional coming up. I think it's the end of April, so I am in thinking thinking about what cards or what deck I can potentially take to that regional. I think Tempai Dragon is going to be out by the time that regional happens, so I don't know if I'm going to pick that up in time and be able to do some stuff with it, or I might just run Kashtira. But again, it is dependent on the ban list, so it's kind of like watch and see. But for the most part, for the time being, I'm probably going to play Kashtira and branded Chimera, so we'll see where that takes us. But anyway, we find ourselves at the end of another video. As always, if you did enjoy this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff, and I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.